Hey guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the laundry room. It's been so long since I filmed in here, and yet here we are yet again. Do I take my glasses off? There's so much freaking glare on them, I don't know what to do. So we are here for a Patreon Wicked early release video. That's a video that will come out weeks, if not probably months in Patreon before it hits the YouTube channel. So shout out to all my patrons who are watching this right now. Thank you so much. Obviously, you make this channel run. The money goes into all the releases I review and stuff like that, as I've said a million times before. Actually, this is not what I'm reviewing right now, but here's a release that I bought with Patreon money, and I will be reviewing this very soon. So you'll see this on the channel and in Patreon probably within the next couple weeks. So what are we here to talk about today? Oh, and if you're on YouTube, I should also say, and you are not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel because it really does help. It makes a big difference. Give us a sub and a thumbs up and all that stuff. Here we go. Let's get into this review. It's Tiger Cage 3. So yesterday at maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I went into Patreon and I put up a poll. Which movie should I watch tonight for a Patreon early release review? And it was Exiled, the Johnny To, the Chameleon Films Blu-ray release of Exiled, Drug War, which I recently got the Plane, I believe it's the Plane Archive edition of from South Korea. So shout out to Kevin who sent that my way. I'm so excited about that release. I love that movie. It's one of my top 5 probably favorite Johnny To movies. And then Tiger Cage 3. And Tiger Cage 3 won the poll. And so here we are. This is the 88 films box set release. And I have reviewed the other 2 films in this series already. I have talked about the booklet in the other reviews. So I'll just show it to you kind of briefly here. But the booklet is awesome. I mean, it's like a whole book, and it's got an interview with Vincent Lin, who's in the first film, an interview with Stephen Berwick, and an interview with Michael Woods, who are, they're in the second one, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a very nicely printed with lots of great images and stuff like that. So here is Tiger Cage 3. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. I think you can see it. You're getting some glare. This film came out in 1991. It's 94 minutes long. It is directed by Yoon Woo-ping, as the other films in this series are. And so, I'm just going to dive into my review here. The only thing that's on here as bonus material is a commentary track from Phil Gillen and Kenneth, why did I say Stefan? Kenneth Brorson, who are, the podcast on Fire Network, and Phil Gillen does Eastern Film Fans. It's a really fun, informative commentary track, so I will talk about that briefly, but I want to kind of more review the movie and give you my thoughts on it. This is a film that is not nearly as highly regarded as the other films in this series, and in a way I understand why. Like, the first movie in this series to me is like a 10 out of 10. Like, it's an amazing film and like an almost perfect movie, and I just loved it. The second one is like a perfect action movie. The story, the paranoia, like those things are not as good as they are in the first film. The first film is just, the script is like so incredible. It's redonkulous. And the cast in the first film. But the second one is just like a perfect action movie. It's like nonstop fighting, chase scenes. It's got really good characters. It's very well directed, awesome martial arts fighting. And it's just nonstop entertainment from fight to back. It's a great showcase for Donnie Yen and the other people who are in it. And the third film is really like a character-driven financial thriller. And so it does have some really awesome, there's a really great chase scene in it that involves, like, Michael Wong is on the top of a car, and there's like shooting and kicking and fighting and running across the tops of these, those tunnels that you see a lot in Hong Kong films that like you walk up the steps and you take the tunnel over the street and then you walk back down the steps on the other side of the street. You get like those, they're on like they get on top of those and they're like running around and stuff like that. It's like really fun. And there's a couple other fight scenes and shootouts throughout the film, and it's a bloody film. Like, there's a scene with a rocket launcher, there's like machine gun shootouts on jet skis. Like, it has action set pieces, but the film is primarily driven by character. And the central character, so I really liked this movie. This is what I'm going to say. But I understand why, if you are looking for a film akin to the first 2, you might not like this one as much. So if I were to rate these films, I would give the first one like a 9 or a 10. Like, it's just mind-blowing. The second one I would give like a 7.5 or an 8. The third one I would give maybe like a 7. So it goes down with each installment, but I don't think this is a bad movie. And my writer brain was fascinated by this film because the way it's constructed is really, really interesting. The character who kind of drives everything and is really, in a way, the central character is not really the protagonist. It's an ensemble cast, right? And so you have these two guys who are like low-level cops who investigate financial crimes, and one of them is dating a woman who works in finance, and her boss gets involved with this guy who's like the big bad like real estate financial criminal guy in Hong Kong, right? So he's being investigated by the cops, and she's kind of in his orbit, and so that's kind of like the central character dynamics. And I almost want to call this movie Shakespearean, which I know sounds preposterous. There's a Hong Kong movie from 1991 that's like in the heroic bloodshed genre that not a lot of people would call a classic film to compare it to Shakespeare. But you have this, like the Michael Wong character is like this perpetual fly in the ointment who's always like fucking stuff up for other characters. And sometimes he has good intentions, but he's not that intelligent, and he's kind of bullheaded and piggish. And so sometimes he'll do stuff that is good, that he'll use his tenacity and his kind of piggish behavior to benefit people who are maybe too timid to do things for themselves that need to be done. Like he protects his friends, but then he also does really stupid shit that fucks up what people are trying to do. Like the dynamics of the characters and the three-dimensionality of the characters, the ambiguity of who is good and who is bad is so well done that it kind of reminds me of Shakespeare. You have this kind of like Macbeth thing where the Michael Wong character is like, it's really interesting because the Michael Wong character is always saying bad stuff about other characters, and you kind of think he's a dick, but then it turns out he's right sometimes. So he's not completely a dick, and he's not completely the voice of reason and conscience and morals. He's kind of multiple things at the same time. And the character that I found the most interesting is this central character, who is I'm trying to take the thing out again so I can show you, who's the girlfriend of one of the cops. And there she is there. And you don't really know what she's up to and why she's up to it until the very end, because you're like, well, she could be going, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to try to be vague when I talk about this, but it's like, is she being incredibly selfish, I guess is one way to put it. Is she this like ruthlessly ambitious person, or is she actually trying to help other people, and she's kind of doing it the only way that she knows how? Is she a victim? Is she taking charge of her fate? To whom is she a victim? In what way is she taking control of her fate? Like, there's all these questions about her character. And then when you find out in the end, and I'm, again, trying not to spoil it, but it turns out to be kind of ambiguous. Like, she's a little bit of everything. And that ambiguity of character and that complexity of morality is so human and so real and so natural and so relatable. That's something you very rarely see in films. What they usually like to do is give you black and white. You're like, this person is like this, and this is how we explain it with this motivation, and this is why they're doing what they're doing. It's usually very simple. And I'm talking especially about Western films because, well, and this is something I thought about while I was watching this film. Hong Kong films are so purely character-driven that ultimately I think you get a much greater complexity of morality, but you also get more happening because people make decisions that drive constant action. In Western films, typically what they do is they create the plot points. Okay, this is where we want to end. This is where we want to start. Here's how we get there. With a Hong Kong film, it feels much more natural. It feels like they sit down with a premise and with characters, and then they're like, okay, this person does this person does this person does it, and then we end up at this conclusion after all these decisions are made. And the characters have a lot of agency. In Western cinema, especially Hollywood movies, you tend to have a reverse engineering of characters. So Hollywood people will give you this dogma that Hollywood is about character first. But what that really means is Hollywood films really sell themselves on high concept premises, which is an intriguing idea. A classic example would be Terminator, a robot who's sent back in time by machines to kill the woman who gives birth to the leader of the human resistance. That's high concept. You get what that is immediately, and you're like, that sounds really fucking cool. I want to see that, right? Now, it is interesting that James Cameron is actually a very, very good director and writer of character. So even though he has high concept films, he's really more of a character-driven director. But in Hong Kong, it's really more about the people. And in Hollywood, what they typically do, accepting people like James Cameron who are really invested in character, is they reverse engineer character to meet plot points. So you come up with the plot points you need, then you write a character around that, rather than writing a character and allowing their decisions to push and pull the direction of the story. And that's what this film does so well. And what I think is really interesting is that in Hong Kong films, you tend to get more interesting plots, and you get more unexpected things happening, and you get more kind of like exciting, unexpected moments that intrigue the audience than you get in Hollywood films, even though Hollywood films are going for plot engagement more so than character engagement in a way. But part of that is with Hollywood, there's very much this thing of like leading the audience everywhere you want them to go and reminding them everywhere along the way where they are. And Hong Kong films are very different. They play more like European dramas in that you just follow character and action, and you kind of like, there are a lot of scenes in this film that tell you a lot about character that are kind of quiet scenes, people talking. There's a scene in a bar at the beginning that's really, really fantastic because it sets up these central kind of character traits of all of the three kind of main characters, who are the two cops and then the girlfriend. And the bartender is like chiming in, and which again is like, in a way that kind of reminds me of Shakespeare, that you have this character who's kind of peripheral but is telling you stuff about the characters and about the central kind of moral conflicts of the film and stuff like that. But there are a lot of scenes in this film that are subtle in that they are telling you information about character that is crucial to the understanding of the evolving plot, but they're not handing it to you. You have to carefully watch the scene and understand why each person does and says everything that they do and say. In a Hollywood film, you have like these moments where someone just kind of says, oh, this is happening. Oh, here's where we are in the plot. Oh, here's the next thing we're going to do. Oh, here's how these people relate to each other. Oh, here's the nature of their relationship. Here you have to figure that out for yourself. A really interesting study in this, I think, kind of to take a detour, and I apologize. And I keep bouncing on this chair because I'm going to put a pillow on it. So if you watch The Departed and then you watch Infernal Affairs, right? Infernal Affairs is very much a film where you have to carefully watch it, follow character, follow story, and put the pieces together. The Departed is, and this is not to knock The Departed, right? But The Departed is very much a Hollywood film in that people remind you, as the story goes along, where you are in the story. So you know what, you have anticipation, which gives you hope, which gives you fear. That's a very Hollywood thing, hope and fear. You want to vacillate between hope and fear. So if you set up future expectations for what will transpire in this story, you either fear that that will happen or you hope that that will happen, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat, and they tease you. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Like that kind of stuff, right? Hong Kong films don't really do that. But they do very different things very, very well. And I think the thing that they do really, really well is character. And so I just enjoyed the crap out of this film because the characters are so fascinating. And again, the character of the girlfriend, like the movie really in the beginning focuses on these cops, and she's there and she has her own desires, and she does things for herself, where she's not just like this kind of girlfriend character, or she's not just like the woman who's there just to be there kind of character, right? Like you have in a lot of other Hong Kong films. Actually, one of them is right here, which I'm going to be reviewing pretty soon. And this is not to knock this film, because this is a very classic and famous film, is Dragons Forever. But I was just reading the essay in the booklet here about the female characters in that movie. And so it's kind of on my brain. But she's just so interesting because she kind of seems like this pawn in these games between these men, but then you find out at some point that she's actually in charge of everything, or like it's her story is maybe a better way to put it. So the commentary track by Kenneth Borson and Phil Gillen is just, I've said this about the last commentary track of theirs I listened to, which I believe was Armor of God. I don't know if I've heard one from them since then, is that it's like listening to like really good friends of yours who know everything there is to know about movies talking to you about the film. Like, it's like you're in the room with them. They're so casual. Not in the sense that it's like unprofessional, but like they know each other so well, they know the film so well, that it's just like this casual conversation in which they mention everything, like all of the credits of all of the actors, the how this film fits in like the continuum of heroic bloodshed films and the history of Hong Kong cinema and action cinema, and like the fight scenes, where you can tell that they cut away to a stunt performer, like who's doing the stunts. Like Kenneth recently did like a series on Michael Wong, the actor, for his podcast, so he talks a lot about Michael Wong's career, and like you just learn so much about the context of the film by listening to their commentary track. And I thought it was a really good addition to the disc on the release. So the film is Tiger Cage 3. This is an amazing set for me. I'm so happy this is out. I'm so happy I have it. I'm so happy I was able to watch these films. Shout out to Louise, who sent this to me, who was kind enough to just send this to me as a gift for no real reason other than just being an awesome person. I couldn't be happier with these movies. I had never seen any of them before. I thought I had seen the second one, but it turns out I hadn't. It's Tiger Cage 3. It was released in 1991, directed by Yuen Wu-ping. My name is Will. This is Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. I thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.